Le sommet international de l'éducation du futur réunit une soixantaine de conférenciers du monde entier. Des pionniers et des innovateurs issus du monde de l'éducation, bien évidemment, mais également des êtres inspirants, issus des chemins de sagesse ou des chemins d'apprentissage et de créativité dans différents domaines. Les arts, les sciences, l'économie, le lien avec la nature, le sport, etc. Des expériences et des chemins de vie qui sont un formidable enrichissement pour le monde de l'éducation. Le professionnalisme des traductions, en simultané, et l'incroyable richesse de toutes ces conférences offrent un horizon de point de vue vaste et varié, très complet, qui en font au final une véritable formation professionnelle pour les enseignants, les éducateurs et tous les professionnels de l'éducation, mais également une formation à la parentalité consciente et une formation individuelle à la vie consciente. Face à toute cette richesse et aux divers retours, nous avons décidé d'offrir toutes ces conférences à tous, partout dans le monde, en français et en anglais, quelquefois en allemand et en espagnol. Découvrez la vision d'acteurs audacieux et influents du changement, vers un monde éthique, solidaire, généreux et profondément respectueux de tous, des cultures, des peuples, des règnes et de la planète. Un incroyable panel de conférences, couvrant toutes les dimensions de l'éducation, pour un futur ayant du sens, une humanité épanouie et une terre qui respire. Une chose est sûre, votre vie, et à travers vous, celle des enfants, ne sera plus la même après avoir écouté toutes ces conférences. Pour avancer, nous avons besoin de vous, nous avons besoin de votre générosité solidaire. L'organisation du sommet et l'édition des conférences ont nécessité des milliers d'heures de travail et nécessitent encore beaucoup de temps et d'investissement. Nous faisons appel aux dons libres et spontanés pour compléter le financement du sommet et, si possible, continuer à l'enrichir de nouvelles conférences. Votre soutien est vraiment précieux et vital pour aller jusqu'au bout de cette aventure extraordinaire. Merci.
Thank you very much to be here. Thank you, Benedict. Thank you, Satyana.
Thank you.
Welcome to everyone. We are going to travel in the frugal innovation.
Yeah.
And different stories with Abhinav. It's your time.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Abel, for the introduction for this new day. And we are starting this new day with Abhinav. And how can I introduce Abhinav? Because he has so multiple talents that it's pretty hard to define. But I would say that he's a key player in the world. In terms of innovation and frugal innovation, creativity, and how to think from scratch with open mind, with, well, he will talk much better than me about all that, but he's really, really the key actor. What can I say in addition of that? You are touching all kinds of topics to really help people, innovate, organizations, NGOs to really think from scratch. So yes, I'd like to see how we can now talk about education with that in mind, and how we can inspire new students, new way of thinking in education too, with this open mind and frugal creativity. And I think you're going to talk also about the art of questioning. So a mix of both during your speech.
And so, Benedict, we can add that 1 year ago, we met with, I met with Abhinav, and this meeting is the beginning of this story. If without this meeting, we can't be here for the International Summit of Education for the Future. This meeting is at the beginning of all this adventure.
So you are the perfect illustration of how Abhinav can open up minds, open up talents, resources, motivation to create from scratch something. Perfect illustration. Thanks for the introduction too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Benedict, for your kind words and this grand introduction. And thank you, Abel, for and the whole team for organizing this inspiring event, opening all teachers, parents, and children to new ways of learning. And education and learning is a subject very dear to me. So I grew up in India, and I did my studies from the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, also known as the SAICE. And for those of you who were there for Devdeep's presentation on Saturday on integral education, you'd have got a glimpse of our system of education. And like Benedict said, what I'm going to speak to you in the next hour is around innovation, creativity, and the art of questioning. And questioning starts from curiosity. So let me just share my screen. So it's been now 12 years that I'm in France. I was born in Delhi, and then from the age of 3, I was in Pondicherry studying. And during my holidays, I used to visit my parents in Delhi. And so I think when I was at the age of 4, after probably, I think it was my first or second holiday, I went back to Delhi. And those of you who have been to India, you know that in Pondicherry, during winter, it's not that cold. Whereas in Delhi, it gets pretty cold. And I think for the first time, I was experimenting or seeing this phenomenon of the air getting condensed and coming out. So I was like wondering, what is this white smoke? And so I think I'd gone for a walk with my father, and we were just talking. And in school, we had learned a prayer, which you can see it's here in French and in English. Comme une flamme qui brûle silencieusement, mon aspiration monte vers toi, Seigneur. Or like a flame that burns silently, my aspiration rises towards you, Lord. So in my creative imagination, I asked in all innocence, oh, so this smoke that is coming out of my mouth is probably of the flame that is in me. So even now, we have a good laugh when I look back at this moment. I realized like I was pretty creative at that time, and pretty imaginative as well. And I think we all need to, as we grow up, we lose somewhere this innocence, this imagination of and this playfulness that we once had. And I think the best way for educators to connect with children is to connect with their child in themselves. And today, the problem is that imagination is in danger. And it's a serious issue because of 3 things. So the first is we are in a lazy economy. Everything is becoming simpler. At a click, we have Uber, a taxi. At a click, we can order food. And innovation is about simplifying life and making things easier. But what is also happening is that as things become easier, we stop thinking, we stop trying to make, because thinking requires effort. That's one, the lazy economy. The second is the attention economy. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these social media, and now with everyone's talking about the metaverse, we are just going to be lost in screens. And all these companies are just trying to make their applications even better to get our attention. And with everything that's happening around on the geopolitical level, with fake news, it's becoming more and more difficult to understand what's real, what's true, what's false. So second is the attention economy. And the third is the consumption economy. Everything is becoming cheaper. Something is broken, we can easily buy something new, and we don't think about making the effort to repair it or use something in a different way. And that's why we need to make this effort with this whole transition to keep our imagination and creativity alive, and as well as trying to make this little effort which can change the world. And this whole notion of ecology and this whole problem with environment is basically because we're not trying to make that effort and not questioning the things around us. As you can see, these children, they're playing cricket, and they have with waste cardboard, they have made like a knee pad to protect their legs. They have made with sticks, the stumps, and with a piece of wood, they have made a bat. So cricket in India is something big, and children can dream about becoming cricketers one day and just having fun. And these children playing on the street, the only resources that they had, they transformed them to play. So with constraints, creativity and imagination are born through constraints. When we have too many resources, when everything is accessible easily, we don't question what we have already or the simple things lying around us. And with the term innovation, we always think new is better, more is better, faster is better, but we don't necessarily need new things. So one important factor is in imagination, creativity, is constraints. We can also see this in questioning. When we don't have constraints, we don't ask that many questions. But when we have constraints, we are trying to repair a table or do some gardening and we don't have the right tools, we start asking questions. As you can see, these kids, they're having fun with the little resources they have, a cardboard box, a tube, which has transformed into a telescope, or a suitcase that has now become a plane. And something key to innovation is play and exploration. Play and exploration go hand in hand with innovation. And innovation or creativity, play, everything, like the world was born out of chaos. The other notion is chaos and disorder. Normally, we associate chaos with disorder. So like if my cupboard is not arranged, I was told, okay, I need to keep my things in order. But when children play, they mutate, they change their environment, and with the environment, they change themselves. And it's part of the process of discovery. And play and exploration, innovation, they all start with curiosity. And so it's very important to also develop curiosity. And how do we develop curiosity? That's something I think we need to ask ourselves in everyday life. How can we, because once we have a routine, everything is laid out, we get bored because we're not learning anything new or we're not curious. I'll give you a little example. When I was in Pondicherry studying, I think I had probably, I was 15 or 16 years old. And our teacher told us that we are going to build a wind vane. So wind vane is this thing that shows the direction of the wind. And so we are students, we didn't have money. We couldn't buy anything. We needed to find resources that were easily available to make this little wind vane. And so I think this was one of the most interesting exercises that I did, which I still remember, because we needed to figure out how can we create a wind vane which turns with the wind. So we thought of different ways of, okay, how can we create something that turns with very less friction? So he told us, like, think what existing resources are around that can already be used. So after, so he didn't give us the answer. We had to think. We probably spent 2-3 different classes. So like every class was an hour long, but we used to think also outside these classes. And finally, we came up with the idea that in a cycle, you have the hub of the wheel, which turns with the ball bearings, which turns naturally. So we had found one key piece of our wind vane. So we went to the cycle department of the ashram, and we asked them, like, do you have any old cycles and a hub that we could use? And he was very happy to give us this hub. And so like this, we questioned every little thing. How can we make it light? How can we use? So we found like plastic sheets, which could be used for the arrow here. And then we had a problem with the balance, because it's something, it has to be light. It has to also be balanced. So because at some point, like the back was heavier than the front, and so it wasn't turning properly. And eventually this whole thing needed to stand somehow. So that's when we learned how to make cement, so that we could place this stick in something. And so through this little exercise, we learned a lot of things of looking at resources around us. And once we built this, we put it on our school, and I think it probably lasted for at least 10 years. And we could see it from the streets. And I think only 4 or 5 years back, there was a very big storm, and it finally got destroyed. But it did. We were very proud of this little thing that we had built. The second aspect of innovation, creativity, imagination is gratitude. And gratitude is celebrating the ordinary things. What happens when we start celebrating the ordinary things is that we are grateful for what we have. We start valuing what we have, and we expand our awareness of things around us. And the problem is when we are stuck in a routine, when we see a bottle of plastic, we just think, okay, it can be used to drink water. But if we cut the plastic bottle, we can use it in different ways. And unfortunately, it's only through constraints that we start seeing things and being grateful for what we have. So be it through during the COVID period when we are stuck at home and we had very few resources, that we started getting creative of how can we create new toys to play at home, or how can we cook with what's remaining. And I'm sure even what's happening in Ukraine, they must be realizing the beauty, and they must be grateful for the little things that they have, be it a little cup of coffee, and they be it a sun, be it a quiet moment. Everything they start cherishing. And this is also an important aspect in developing a different awareness and seeing things differently. So if you want to innovate, innovation is not doing innovation. It's not before being able to do innovation, I think we need to be innovative. And to be innovative, we need to change the way we see things. And to do that, for me, these are the two starting points. One is constraints and one is gratitude. So we can have a little simple equation that imagination and creativity is constraints plus gratitude. And so the whole challenge is, how can we in our daily lives get more creative? How can we look for opportunities? How can we transform constraints into an opportunity? And that brings us to the notion of resourcefulness. So what is resourcefulness? Resourcefulness is, I have a problem, I'll find a solution. And resourcefulness is also a choice. I have a problem, I can start complaining. Or I have a problem and I can take it as an opportunity for learning something new, for finding a solution, or for changing something. And we all have that choice. And when we grow up, there are a lot of things that do that the way we think, the way we see things change. We try something, we fail, we call it failure. And if we just become a victim, we haven't learned from that experience. So it's a moment between finding a problem, making the shift that, okay, I'm not going to be a victim, but I have the choice to make a difference and to see things differently. And resourcefulness is also a muscle, and we need to develop it. We have an opportunity in every day. At all moments, we make choices, we make decisions. And so resourcefulness is this optimism, this with gratitude, creativity, to find a solution. And I think it's very, it's not easy, but if we take it like something to play, if you look at it like an experiment, a learning opportunity, we can do this every day. The other thing is, when in school, we take up a creative activity, be it singing, dancing, music, and we're not good at it, that's when we create our first equation of failure, where we say creativity is equal to my artistic expression. But there are two different things. The artistic capability and creativity are not the same thing. So today, you ask a grown-up, are you creative? He'll say, no, not at all. I'm not creative. I'm quite boring, actually. But actually, what he's referring to is his artistic capacity. Whereas creativity is just being creative, being is about having an idea, being imaginative, and doing something. So I have a piece of wood. Today I can play with it. It can become a boat. Tomorrow it can become a plane. Or I can just complain that, oh, I just have a piece of wood. What can I do with it? I don't have anything to be happy about. And so being resourceful is also developing our curiosity muscle. And curiosity is asking questions. You see a phenomenon. I saw white smoke coming out of my mouth. I asked, like, what is this? But if we see it every day, we don't even ask this question. An interesting point to make here would be the notion of routine and rituals. So in a routine, what happens is the ordinary things in everyday life just become invisible because it's a routine. I see this every day, I do this every day, and it's boring. Whereas it's just repetitive. Whereas if I bring in attention and intention, I can make something simple, something ordinary, something beautiful, grand, and magic. And I think we need to cherish what we are grateful for, the little things that we have in everyday life, through these simple acts of gratitude, these moments that we can enjoy. Similarly, nature. Being in nature helps us become more optimist just because of the sheer beauty of nature. Beauty inspires gratitude. Gratitude also can come from our beliefs. So, like growing up in India, we believe in God, or for in the Western world, it could be just believing in nature, in something bigger than us. And when we have this belief, we can become resourceful. Like the resources show up when we have a problem. If we believe that there is a solution, we will find a solution. And the problem, this whole problem actually became even graver because of Descartes and his when we started just thinking that learning is about just thinking and it's about the head, but thinking is more and I mean learning is more than just the head. Learning is a whole body experience. It's a whole, we have different aspects of us and we need to learn from everything around us. Everyone, like at the opening talk, Anil Gupta was telling us, everyone can be a teacher, everyone can be a student, and we can be learning all the time. So I don't know if you have heard about micro adventures, but I think it's something wonderful. So Alistair Humphrey defined micro adventures. A micro adventure is an adventure that is short, simple, local, cheap, yet still fun, exciting, challenging, refreshing, and rewarding. And I think only
one thing, Abhinav, do you prefer people to ask questions all through long or at the end?
They can ask if there are any questions. They can ask. You can
okay.
If there are any questions, you can also stop and.
So yeah, I just did not mention that at the start. So if you have questions, please do enter them into the chat so that we can I can ask you straight away.
Perfect.
Okay, Doc.
Thank you, Benedict. And I think so during COVID, that's when we realized that we don't need to go to another country, travel kilometers, take the plane to have a holiday. We can have a holiday in our backyard. We can rediscover the city where we are, because when we are in a routine, like in Paris itself, there are so many things to do. I love to be a tourist in Paris whenever I'm around. And a macro adventure is as simple as just, it can be anything. So doing something new, something that takes you out of your comfort zone. So for example, one of my friends, she one day she gave me a challenge to go to a class, and this was a class of the 5 rhythm dance. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I had to go somewhere at a particular time. And there they told me that it's going to be a 5 rhythm dance. So I'm very scared of dancing. I'm very bad at dancing. And so I was like already very stressed. And then I saw, so the 5 rhythm dance is about, so during an hour, they play different kinds of musics which evoke 5 different emotions. And then I saw everyone dancing around me, and it was, and I was the only one standing for the first couple of minutes. And I was like, okay, if I don't start moving, I'm going to be the one looking like the weird person in here. And so I started playing the game and experimenting, and I did have fun. And I did learn a lot about myself, and it was a micro adventure. And I think we all need these kind of micro adventures to again develop inspiration, curiosity around us. And so another little anecdote is before COVID in Paris, I used to organize what I call serendipity dinners. And so the concept was pretty simple. The idea was to find, so like in French, I used to call it the dîner improbable. The idea was to find an unusual place and bring in unusual people. And so, like you can see here down, it was in a gramophone museum. Here on top, it was at an art gallery. And every time there were different kinds of people. There were artists, there were different nationalities, there were bloggers, there were engineers, there were entrepreneurs. And the idea was to create curiosity and serendipity. You never know whom you'll meet, what you'll learn, what you'll discover, and that's how you innovate. When two bodies of knowledge come together for the first time, you have innovation. And innovation also starts with inspiration. And I think we need to find these moments of serendipity through micro adventures, through the community. Community also is an important part in learning, in creating curiosity. And I think what was, as Devdeep mentioned previously about our school, is that we grew up with the whole community. So like the whole city in Pondicherry, we practically knew everyone. And growing up in a community has those advantages of meeting new people. And we also had this curiosity developed by people coming from all walks of life, from all around the world, talking to us about different subjects, from as varied from music, science, and everything else.
Tu as une question, Abhinav, de comment tu as pu connaître toutes ces personnes. Sorry, should be in English because the question was in French. So, no, there were a question about how did you knew all those people? Did you discover all those people coming from all those different paths of life? and so that you can connect them all together?
So these were the different people that I met through different projects. So it could be someone that I met at a theater, and then just started speaking, and then we just had a connection. And then I said, like, okay, we never know that so I used to spend a lot of time actually connecting people. So I see connections all the time, connecting ideas, people, places, and that's how I learn also. Like learning is like building blocks, and then the more the blocks you have, the better you can play. You can think of it as Lego. So you just never know when you'll need what piece. So like everyone is a part of the puzzle. And so I was always part of different projects, associations, organizations, entrepreneurial projects, startups. And so I used to always put people together. And so one day I told to myself, I do waste a lot of time putting people together. Why not build a community of innovation, a community of serendipity, an accelerator, and then people might find a lot more connections. And so I had a list of all the people. 60% of the people I knew, 40% of people were new, who came along with others or who heard about it. That was serendipity too. And then I used to go around introducing people, and people used to also then the projects. So there were projects that I was helping, and these events had 50, 60 people. And it also became like a place to pitch ideas. People looking for resources could say that, okay, I'm looking for a developer. Does anyone know a developer? And then we just need to ask 3 people to find what you're looking for. And so I also do love cooking and food. So with a friend who's a very good chef, we needed to create inspiration and inspire people and make everything, give them the opportunity to start speaking. Because normally when, so the other thing in education is, how do we define ourselves? When we grow up, we define ourselves as, I am an engineer, I'm a developer, I'm a businessman. So we define ourselves with what we do or with what we have, and very rarely by who we are, which can be something complicated. And so the idea through these events was that people really start speaking about who they are. And so everything could be a conversational starter. When you see food decorated with flowers or mushrooms or things that you have never eaten with different colors, everything becomes beautiful. And so it's a lot of thought goes into engineering these dinners to create inspiration, curiosity. So when it was at the gramophone, the whole theme was around gramophones. So we had burgers, black burgers, which looked like gramophones. When it was in the art gallery, we had a link with painting, art, colors, and everything that we ate. So they were immersive dinners. I have not yet started doing them again after COVID, but probably sometime soon. So if you're in Paris, don't hesitate to get in touch. And
okay, thanks a lot. So in fact, it's a kind of the contrary of the dinners that are organized by the famous school, that they are all together in the same promotion, meeting again. So it's pretty completely different. It's friendly.
Absolutely. And yeah. I think and it's also participative. So it's not that it's just like everyone has to be part of also the whole dinner experience, be it help in some way. So it's something participative where everyone feels involved and that they're contributing to something. So I'm also thinking of trying to create it like a manifesto so that everyone can organize these dinners in their cities.
Okay, so you're trying to train them how to replicate this process of serendipity dinners.
Exactly.
Okay, train
Because
the trainers.
It's a very fine art of curation. Of there has to be the right number of women with the right number of men, all ages, different nationalities. So there has to be diversity. Diversity is also important for creativity and innovation. If everyone is, if all the playing blocks of the Lego are of the same size, same color, you get bored very fast.
Yeah, that's why I was really thinking it's totally different from what is organized in Polytechnic or Central, where they're all meeting all together, but they are exactly the same color, so same color of thinking. Okay, and just to clarify, did you organize common how to interact, or because you talked about pitching, did you organize the context of interaction, or did you let it free?
So there was one part which was organized and the other part was free.
Okay.
So that's also part of the serendipity where you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you just plan part of it, but then it's again this notion of play. When you give in a game, when you create the rules, you can, in music, you call this liberating constraints. So once you're given the rules, as long as you respect the rules, you can innovate within these rules. So the constraints were the time, the organizing resources, and apart from that, so I also, this is how I practiced and learned the art of facilitation, because I wasn't getting an opportunity immediately to start practicing, be it hosting or what we call participatory or the art of hosting. So this was my way of also learning facilitation at with 60 people. So yeah.
Okay. Is it the end of the speech and we can turn to full questions, or do you have other?
Sorry?
Is it the end of your overall
no,
presentation?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So just go.
So the other important thing is tunnel vision. Unlucky people miss chance opportunities because they are too stuck, too focused on looking for something else. So when we want to learn, we want to do something, or we want to have something, we just get fixed on it. And then we miss out on all the resources all around us. We stop questioning everything else. And I learned this from a friend who used to go to these flea markets, where he was an inventor, and he used to go regularly every weekend to the flea market. He wasn't looking for anything specific. Based on what he found, he started questioning, okay, so this is how I can use this in a different way, or I might need this for this, and so I can start. So he wasn't looking for something specific. A lot of companies disappeared because of tunnel vision. They were too focused on doing something, or especially with expertise. we start thinking or seeing things in a different way, in a very one-directional way. So we need to also expand our awareness to see things differently, and that's when we can start asking different questions. And innovation is all about asking questions. The more questions we can ask, the more answers we will find. And it's also becoming more like with the consumption economy of finding everything quickly, we just want to jump to the answer. We want to find the answer. But the whole process of finding the answer is way more fun, of being able to generate more questions, questioning everything. And today, the problems that we're facing, be it with democracy, ecology, the problem is we need people to ask more questions and not see just one way. This brings us towards the end. So I discovered this model through a friend, and on digging further, as I found that Stephen Covey, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he has this model of be, do, have. And I found it a very interesting model that can really explain and answer a lot of our questions. Who we are, what we do, what we want to have. A lot of time in life, we do everything the other way around. We want to have things, and to have those things, we do certain things, and then we think that we will be happy or we will be satisfied. But and probably like for a long time when I was doing these projects, I had a lot of difficulty defining who I am, because I love to do a lot of things. So I had trouble finding in the be, like, who am I and what do I want to do? And I think we are always faced with this question of be, do, have. The problem is, so the other way of looking at this be, do, have model is on the y-axis we have the be, and on the x-axis we have the have. Now, if we have a life where we just want to have, we just forget about being. We just want to have, and we forget about the being. We have these saints who are more into being, and they don't have. Throughout history, all the philosophers from the East and the West have spoken about minimalism. The Stoics, be it in India, that it's not material pleasure, it's just who we are. And at 45 degrees, where be and have meet, is the do axis. So if we do for being and for having, that we can say is the notion of service. So this is Frederick Joel, a friend of mine, that he explained to me. When I saw this model, I was like, wow, it's so simple to explain that when we do something just for the sake of doing and not thinking about the fruit, about the result of having, we can just do in excellence. And that's the notion of service. On how can we be of service to others? How can we do something for the pleasure of doing? And it's a very fine line. As you can see, it's just at 45 degrees. So we have 3 models for students and for all of us. We can be the victim, in the sense we get the order wrong. To have this, to have this, to have that, we need to do this. And to do this, we need to become this. Then you have the hard worker. He's just into doing. And by doing this, he will have that. And by having that, he can be what he wants to be. And finally, we have the winner, which is getting once you know who you are, but that can be a lifelong journey to understand who we are, our raison d'être. And once we find that, it's probably sometimes too late. And then we just put ourselves at the service of who we want to be. And we do that, and having becomes a result. And so that is the end of innovation, creativity,
Wonderful.
the art of questioning, serendipity, the be do have model.
Great.
If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Apparently, there's lots of interest for your triangle and how to articulate the do, be, and have. Perhaps, how could you implement that model, that triangle into the education process? And at which level? Is it when they are very young, or is it all the life of education, I would say, education process through? How would you do that?
So it's so everything that we saw about micro adventures, serendipity, curiosity, it's all about the be. And we need to encourage the being. So curiosity, gratitude, and everything that we spoke of, like in a lot of conferences in the summit, the questions were, how can we teach happiness? So happiness is also a result. And by doing and being, we can achieve that result. And we can see immediately, like when a student is probably struggling with something, where is he stuck? In which part of the triangle is he stuck? How can we encourage the being so that the doing can then come along? And learning is in being in the loop of the be and do, and that's how we develop the learning. So there's a little Sufi saying that there are 4 ways of learning. So the first is learning through the head. So it's the philosopher asking questions and learning through asking questions. The second is the way of the wise man. So the wise man learns through life by doing. And what he learns, so it's the path of the heart. So he learns by doing, and he learns it the hard way or the normal way. And then you have the mystic. The mystic learns through insights, intuition, inspiration. And then you have the saint, who learns through all the other 3 ways, or all the ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the path. And from everything you say, we better understand why in France we have a hard time, because you said it, we are a Descartes country, so very mental, first level of what you've said. And it's not so easy to have the last part that you were talking about, the mystic one, and probably you were in a better place in the Sri Aurobindo education environment to be where you are today, with that open mind, creativity and innovation, completely being in yourself, in your blood, completely irrigating all your personality. So it's also one of the questions: how can we train teachers? And harder question, in France, with all those principles, what would you advise? What can we do?
To teach the principles of the as in the B2 have, I think it's like I said, the developing gratitude, starting to cherish ordinary things, how with little ordinary things we can become creative, how can we become better problem solvers, how can we ask more questions and question everything around us, because asking questions makes us stay in the be-do sector. By if we don't have an answer, we try, we play, we experiment, and we get the answer. So like teaching is information. So knowledge is information, but then that knowledge transforms into wisdom once we have done and learned it through experimentation.
Mm-hmm. And did you create a kind of a mentor program for teachers, for example, or is it something that you would like to plan one day? Because I was just doing a parallel with Cécile Falbert, who created a program, a mentoring program for the 8 Shields, because she saw that it was working in another part of the world, and she's creating that in France. So is it something you'd like?
So I'm a trainer in innovation, and I do this for companies, and I've not yet done it with children or for teachers, but I think it would be the same principle, and definitely why not? Could be interesting. But I think through the other conferences also, there were, for example, a lot of things based on nature-based learning, or learning through dance. So it can be everything, like all these different pedagogical approaches somewhere touch these things. So for example, nature-based learning encourages immediately learning through gratitude, through observation, and with resources that we have around. So when I spent 4 months with Abel in the countryside, and I saw like I had some classes, and we used to spend a lot of time in nature when I was in India, and I had this opportunity to reconnect with nature, and it was beautiful when you start recognizing the little plants that we can eat, which can be used for curing, when you start recognizing the birds. And it was funny to see like some people who don't have the habit of being in nature, they can get bored so easily and like just get lost again in the phone, to feel busy, to be busy, and like because they just cannot connect with anything that they know.
It was something I wanted to mention to you or ask you about nature-based, because you were saying coming out of routine, coming out of tunnel and so on, and kids, when they're in a classroom, they have every day is the same walls, the same tables, the same books in their on their desk. Everything is always the same, even if they are changing a little bit the different topic they're going to talk about. Whereas when they're in nature, the weather is different, animals can be completely different, plants are changing every day according to the seasons. So that's why I really think, and also constraints, because nature is not is very rich and abundant, but also limited. Okay, so
we can
from what you
learn.
said, yeah, just go.
I think we can learn as in everything from nature, in nature. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So it's something that came quite often during this week about nature-based pedagogy and how it's so rich for kids, and also gratitude and openness to many B skills. The B in your triangle, it's what was coming out of all the sessions. The B, the gratitude, the empathy, the heartfulness, the joy, everything was in.
So
yeah.
So frugal innovation is about transforming a constraint into an opportunity. And if we use a metaphor, it's like in alchemy, where we try to transform lead into gold. And all these alchemists in history, they were the first teachers or people who started playing around with the laws of nature to and create the first playing blocks of physics, chemistry, astronomy, everything. And so probably they started with the have, like they wanted to create gold. But then they realized that alchemy is not about just finding gold, but like we need to find the gold in ourselves as well, the B. But that was something that they discovered through the do.
Yeah, that's a very good reminder. And when you also read about Gaudi, about Steiner, about Einstein, they're all saying that nature was inspiring them, and then after they were going to the other side of the triangle, but was always a B at first, which can be surprising because we all think they are mental people, but they were having a very good balance in your triangle.
Benedict, Abhinav.
Yeah.
It's 1:30,
Yes, we are stopping. Thank
Perfect.
you.